Owning a home in Naperville is about living a great life today and investing in a secure tomorrow. On this show, we're going to give you the tools to do both. Welcome to the Naperville Real Estate Weekly Market Update. Hey, Naperville. I'm Chris Grannon with Keller Williams. Right alongside me is Todd Gosden with Compass Mortgage, and we are your hosts for the Naperville Real Estate Weekly Market Update. Todd, how are you?
I am good. I think the swimming pools are getting ready to open. It's a good day.
Oh man, I just hopped off a conference call from somebody out in Denver who said they got more snow last night, and I felt pretty excited about myself.
Yes, we were very fortunate to have weather this nice this early.
Oh yes, absolutely. It was a beautiful Easter weekend, and hopefully everybody had fun. The holiday weekend put a little bit of a slight delay in the numbers for this week, but that's always to be expected. And I think people would rather be hunting for some eggs than maybe hunting for houses this last weekend. So
probably.
All right, so we'll dive into the numbers here in Naperville, and it's a similar story. Again, a little bit of a downturn just because of the holiday, but we're looking at 99 new listings, still very, very active. That's compared to 115 last week. 89 under contract compared to 101 last week, and 67 sold, which is right in line with where we were last week. So still great activity, even with the holiday, and I'm sure it's going to pick up again this week. So when we look at the inventory, I'm going to give you just a little bit of high level, but again, it's really a tale in Naperville of two markets. If you're under 750,000 right now, it's still an incredibly competitive market for buyers. So it's a seller's market. If we're looking at under $500,000 and an MSI month supply of inventory of 2.09 and then 2.48 in 500 to 750. So very, very strong seller's market still there. But you get above that 750 and it really changes. So 750 to a million, we're looking at 7.5 months of inventory. So that puts us beyond neutral into really kind of the beginnings of a buyer's market in that range. And then above a million, it's always going to be, favoring the buyers there. It's a little bit of a slower price bracket, but about 14 months of inventory there. So, Todd, I'm curious, just any insight on some of the conversations you're having with buyers over the last few weeks? Any kind of topics that are coming up or concerns folks are having?
Well, encouragement, number one, spring has sprung.
Yeah.
So people are through for the most part their breaks or their spring breaks or whatever they have going on. And most of us are in the final stretch with kids, whether they're in college or in grammar school or high school or whatever. We're finishing that up. Probably our attitudes are getting a lot better about things, right? We're actually having some freedoms and we're getting out there enjoying the sunshine. And I think people are reacting to that very positively. I can see just over the last couple of weeks of seeing numbers starting to surge in many areas here in the western suburbs of Chicago, which is fun to see. I think inventory is going to be coming back very strongly here over the next 6 months. Rates have sort of stabilized now in the low threes, even though they're not the, oh my gosh, I'm in the twos type of thing, but that's still okay historically. And we're off and running. I think that this is a really good place for a lot of people who are looking to buy and probably looking to sell at this time.
Yeah, and it seems like folks are really kind of hopping on the wave. Just anecdotally, I was had a new listing in Lockport last week, and it was so funny. Our listing and a couple others came on the market, and then within 3 or 4 days, there were 3 or 4 more right behind them. So I think people are seeing the success that their neighbors are having. Like you said, they're feeling positive about the next few months from a society standpoint. And they're getting ready to get back to business, which is great.
Yep, there's a lot of them that want to buy right now, so it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, that's super encouraging. So the topic we're going to talk about today, Todd, and we're just going to kind of scratch the surface of it because you and I were talking ahead of the recording here today, and it's a big topic, and that is because the part of the promise of this podcast, right, is not only to help buyers and sellers, but to help homeowners who are in the midst of their home ownership journey. So, you and I have said a number of times that we don't want to just be there for our clients at the point of the transaction and just barely leading up to the transaction. We want to be partners for life. And so there's a lot of ways that we can help homeowners, on the finance side and on the real estate, realtor side that are beyond buying and selling. So that leads me into today's topic, which is renovation. And so renovation is, really exploded over the last year. Would you say you probably talked to more folks over the last year that did projects around the house than maybe ever before?
Well, yeah, well, mostly because they had nowhere to go. They
Yeah,
start working on the house, right?
exactly.
I think there's that, and then there's also that. Hey, listen, I'm seeing the equity in my house move off the charts right now, and we have some things around the house we want to do, whether it's patio or landscaping or fixing a bathroom or kitchen or whatever the case may be. Is people are like, okay, I have the choice. I can sell and move, or I can improve my house here. And I think that you have equal parts of people wanting to do both right now.
Yes, and you talked about equities raising, and it's almost a chicken and the egg kind of thing, because I talk to a lot of homeowners who realize that prices are on the rise, so they have equity to use. At the same time, some homeowners are looking at what their neighbors are selling for and saying, I want to sell for that, but then realizing, oh gosh, I haven't done hardly any of the updates that those people have.
Exactly. Well,
So
it's one of those things right now. It's just people have to make a decision whether staying or moving. And then I think the overall big topic when we have this conversation, which is typically more than a handful of times a week, of, am I over improving? Which is a huge thing right now, meaning probably not over improving if you're adding a deck or putting on a patio, but if you are spending in significance to redo kitchens and bathrooms and basements and all those things, usually my first stop is back to you saying, let's have a conversation with Chris. We want to make sure that we are staying in a region to where the house is actually saleable if we have to do it, right? And you're not over approved.
100%. I just had that conversation yesterday with some homeowners who are getting ready to sell, and they said, well, we've got to do all these projects. And I said, well, let's pause for a second. Let's use your dollars wisely, because don't assume you're going to get that money back. And so it really depends on the neighborhood, on the price range we're talking about. You can absolutely, over improve your house, especially, a first time buyer's market, and you start putting in luxury items. Boy, oh boy, you're just not going to see that return. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And so really, I think what we'll do is over the next couple of weeks, we want to tackle what are the projects that we should do to see some, vitalization. Yep. What are the ones we should avoid? Yep. And then I think the big question that you're going to be able to help us with is, how do I pay for some of those things? Yeah. And there's a lot of ways to answer that too.
Lots of ways. It's a big conversation, but we have to kind of set the base for the conversation to allow it to springboard off to the next topic. So I think that's very, very wise.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give just a little kind of a sneak preview here. And this is what I tell all my sellers. If you're going to do just one thing, I'll limit it to literally just one thing before you're getting ready to sell and you're trying to improve. If you're doing renovations for the purpose of sale, and that's probably a great point too, is, sometimes if you're doing renovations, you're going to enjoy them for the next 5 to 10 years, and you're pretty confident about that. It's a little different than if you think you're going to sell in the next year or two. You might not get as long-term of enjoyment out of it. But I'll give one tip to sellers here. If you're going to do renovations for the purpose of sale, paint is the number one thing you can do, because it shows up beautifully on photos and it's not that expensive. In fact, you could probably do most of it yourself. So that's kind of a little sneak peek on what's to come, but I think it's going to be a great conversation over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think next week we need to dive right into how to start financing, and number two, what projects are going to yield the most cents on the dollar for you to sell a home.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Todd. Thank you as always.
You as well. Looking forward to our next time together.
Everybody, if you're not already following the podcast on any of our major platforms, you can check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Chris Grano, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and make sure you tell your friends. And hey, if you can, please leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great day, everybody.